All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to our coverage here of Southeast Asia coverage. Now coming at you. Southeast Asia, of course, we are in day number 2 now. The first region, I believe, to go to day number 2 here, being overnight. So looking forward to seeing how things continue on, and they had plenty of matches played yesterday. By the end of today, we'll know how things are shaping up going to the playoffs, as well as the first place team actually going to TI. I'm Brick CBK, joined by Jack here, also known as KBBQ. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. I'm excited to look at the second day of this region. I think the first day was mostly not too surprising in terms of outcomes. I think the teams that people believe would be strong, your Fanatics, your TNCs, your Faceless, did do pretty well. Then there's kind of the middle-of-the-road teams that these squads, well, Clutch Gamers had a stranglehold on Qualifiers in SCA for about a month or two ago. But in the LAN results since then, they haven't done so well, and trying to find their form again. And Mineski also... a fairly new squad formed around Mushi once again. Both squads coming into this game at 2-2, and so they've got to try to distance themselves and make this run on day 2 if they want to keep their TI hopes alive.
Exactly. Maybe that first place seed is a little bit out of reach for both of these teams, but again, 2nd through 5th, really, all you need to do is get one of those seeds. Even if it's 5th place or 2nd, it doesn't really matter. Getting to that next phase is what is really important. And I know here we are, covering Southeast Asia and everything, but can I just say it's so cool, being at this hub here, and now that we're in day number 2, we've gotten obviously all the other regions started. I know that you've been here even a little bit, casting some of the NA region. There's just crazy stuff going on across the board, and some of the NA Dota. In fact, there's a big match going on right now over there, Complexity versus Planet Odd. We actually have it on a monitor in here. I'll try not to be distracted too much, but yeah, I mean, how have all the regions been going in general? You think you've been enjoying all the content here?
Yeah, it's always fun to see kind of very different regional playstyles. If you look at the last few patches in Dota, you see that there are teams and regions that have very different hero pools, and there is like an agreed upon meta. You're seeing some of it here, like, Sand King, Clockwork, Night Stalker. These are very early picks for some teams. But there's also some regions that have their own flavors. I think China and SCA, for instance, have used a lot of Underlord recently. And as far as these two teams, they've both run a decent amount of Broodmother as well, both in for Epicenter for Clutch Gamers, and in Qualifiers for Mineski. So there's some regional flavor picks that we'll see that could come up in this draft.
So speaking of that, Mineski versus Clutch Gamers here, I happen to cast actually match from both of these teams, but I did cast Mineski one of their matches. Mag actually played that Broodmother, and it was a curious pick at the time because apparently Mag has this history of being a very good Broodmother player. That's one of his niche picks in general, and ultimately, it's not necessarily the hero that didn't work out. It's just that the team play didn't necessarily come together, and ultimately it was a loss for them. But yeah, that was fun to see. So the possibility of it coming up again could be interesting. But it was other Gods Illumine that I had on yesterday that made that point, though. They kind of showed their hand early. It was against TNC, that's right. Obviously a very good team. They were hoping to maybe catch them off guard in a best of 1. Didn't work out, but now if you're playing against them, I wouldn't be surprised if Clutch Gamers bans that, even with this 4th ban coming up here, maybe waiting for the 5th one. That's like a just in case. It's a comfortable niche pick. But it picks that we do see, the Clockwork Shadow Fiend combo. That's, some may call that a little bit of cheese, but the Cogs, apparently they have souls, and Shadow Fiend's going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe first 2 picks. We saw them do that during Manila Masters as well. It doesn't give away too much. And as you mentioned, with the best of 1 format, you can have things up your sleeve or have surprise picks. And then even if you don't plan on playing the Broodmother here, if it ends up taking up a ban and taking away from that spot, then it still gives you a slight edge in the draft that you might be able to use.
Night Stalker Lena coming out from Mineski. Night Stalker definitely a comfort hero for a lot of these teams as far as that 4 position goes. And Venomancer is actually one that we haven't seen a lot, I've noticed, especially in safe lane. I feel like that kind of came out of nowhere to an extent. All of a sudden, in these last couple of weeks even, it just seems like we just started seeing this hero more, again, in the safe lane.
Well, if you trace the evolution of this hero over, say, maybe the past half year, there was one team around the last summit that was using it extensively. It was actually EG. It was being used in the jungle, and this was something that was banned out pretty much exclusively against EG because he was able to jungle very efficiently. It was Zai that was jungling it most of the time, and then you come quickly with the Guardian Crease, and you can start pushing and taking objectives very fast. That started to change a little bit over time. Now it's being played sometimes as a safe lane core. This is a hero that is very annoying to lane against. It's hard for you to stay in lane against him if he gets levels and farm, and then he kind of just keeps the wave push and puts an insane amount of pressure on your offlane tower.
Yeah.
And a hero, again, that's very difficult to take fights into because it's like at most, if you do get him, you're going to trade multiple heroes in the process of killing him. And he puts tremendous pressure. And he does have items and farms to scale with. He has a pretty annoying core to deal with for a lot of heroes. So this is something that we've seen grow in popularity in all regions. From that EG seed, we've seen EG play it in the safe lane and we saw that during Epicenter. We've seen other teams now in the NA region run it in the safe lane as well. I believe Complexity had been doing that for a couple games in a row. So, yeah, the heroes definitely picked up some value as this kind of push out the waves type of core.
We also saw it a little bit in China there, post 7.0 coming out, the mid Venomancer, where, you know, this whole right-click Venomancer, all of a sudden, it only lasted like a couple of weeks, if that, but, you know, we were seeing the MKB, you know, the silver, you know, just crazy right-click prowess, and it's kind of interesting to kind of see that take off and then just die off pretty quickly at the same time. So, but yeah, the Venos nowadays, it seems like they build more of the Guardian Greaves, you know, Force Staff maybe, the Ags, of course, popular. The whole right-click Venos aren't necessarily as popular as that 2-week trend that we had right there. But we're talking about a hero that's banned. Let's talk about heroes that are picked up in this case. Bristleback third picked, actually, by Clutch. But there's the response of Necro, though. I know Necro's kind of considered a bit of a counter, you could say, to Bristleback.
Yeah, this is another core that they've been taking pretty confidently. You can put it in multiple lanes. You can also feel confident in putting him in a one-on-one matchup, unlike some other safe laners that might have a tough time or you might have to protect. So that frees up the roaming. And if you're looking at Alina versus Shadow Fiend, one key part of that matchup is if you put any kind of pressure on the Shadow Fiend or manage to rotate that, you can get kills. So with the Necrophos being more of an independent laner, if he is ultimately in the safe lane, then that frees up your supports to do more. It frees up the Night Stalker as well to roam or to be part of a stronger dual lane top. So there's a lot of different pressure points that they can apply with this Necrophos being an independent laner as he is. And yeah, as for, well, I just want to point out a small point here. Ark's name, the Chinese behind his name is Burning's Chinese name. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he had he had it written in English. I guess Ark is a real fan of Burning, because he had it written in English as Burning before, and this time it's the Chinese version. So.
Well, actually, since I have you, I mean, what about Clutch Gamers then? Because I noticed that it looks all the same.
Yeah, that's their sponsor. That's one of their sponsors.
Okay, that makes sense then. Gotcha. Witch Doctor coming out from Mineski. So both teams going at their 5 support option, Disruptor into the Witch Doctor here. Any obvious reasons as maybe you'd see the Witch Doctor pick up? Because again, not really a popular suspect for a support option.
So a few teams are very high on this. I think Navi was picking it first at the summit. The noticeable point I can see here is the counter initiation onto relatively soft cores, and then the sustain that it gives you with the Necrophos and Witch Doctor, 2 sources of healing through the damage of Clutch Gamers, which, if you think for a long run, like sustaining against a Bristleback or not dying in the first round of spells to Clockwork, Shadow Fiend, and in this case Disruptor, is pretty important. It allows you to kind of retaliate and keep your cores alive. So there is some synergy there. And also, if you want to be aggressive and fight super early, having that extra sustain with the Witch Doctor Necrophos means you have to go home less often. You just have more gas in the tank to keep the fights going.
Where do we think this Necro's going to end up? Is it going to be the 1 position here, probably? Or could we maybe see an offlane Necro?
I would guess that it's 1 position, although that puts them in an odd spot of kind of revealing their cores very early in the draft.
Yeah.
Although I have seen Mineski do this a few times, as you mentioned with the Brood, too. So,
true.
I would guess that this is a safe lane Necro. But it does feel kind of early to be giving up that kind of information. You could open yourself potentially to another pick, maybe something greedier like, you know, an anti-mage, something like that. I'm not sure if they'll go that direction here, though.
Huh. Well, they banned Lone Druid, so that's kind of interesting in itself, because I don't know. I mean, no matter, I guess I could have run a safe lane Lone Druid. That definitely would be out of the question. Is an off-lane Lone Druid, is that really relevant anymore? I know that maybe there was a little bit of time for that, but...
I think as long as you have something to protect it, it can still be done. Preferably you want a mid or the safe lane.
Yeah.
Like maybe they were thinking perhaps they'll move Alina to a support role and then put that Necro as a core mid.
Oh, yeah, they could have done that, I guess. Ooh, there's a Faceless. Well, they snapped that one. After the anti-mage ban, so now Clutch Gamers, they need their 1 position. So well, I see that, because you still don't really know, right, what their lane's going to be. Even with them all 5 heroes, you could send Faceless offlane with Necro safe. You could do the opposite of that. I guess that would be kind of the only thing that maybe or hell, I guess you could technically do like a Witch Doctor Luna support with Night Stalker offlane and like Necro mid Faceless short, but I don't know if that's really what they'd ultimately do in the end. But
yeah, this is an excellent Faceless Void pick here. You have the time dilation, which is extremely good against Bristleback or these kind of spammy heroes.
Ah, good point.
You've got the natural synergy with the Witch Doctor Death Ward. It used to be that you could put the Death Ward inside and it would still work, but now you have to put it outside. But still, you know, with the Chronosphere going up, you have 3 heroes that have pretty good synergy with that, just being able to dump damage onto someone's head when the Chrono is down. So, and it also gives them a way of breaking initiation as well, or getting to the backline. Let's say you start a fight with a Disruptor before you can follow up and get your damage in, the Void Chronos, stops that fight from happening and can cancel things out. So It's a nice pickup here. I'm kind of liking the draft so far from Mineski, but this last
Gyro.
pick.
Oh, I just said something random. I don't know. I like to always try to predict it at the very last second. Omni Knight, though, coming out with the final pick. And so it's going to be an off-lane Omni Knight. You'd guess here, Bristleback in the safe lane and Shadow Fiend in that mid. But you Faceless Void, that Chronosphere, I'm sure that target's going to be that Shadow Fiend especially. But now with the Omni Knight, that kind of, you need to make sure to catch him in there as well. Or else it could be difficult to kill the targets, obviously with that Guardian Angel coming out or even the Repel in certain cases. So Omni Knight final pick, though. What do you think?
I think it's done for lane versatility reasons. I mean, he's not really afraid of the kit of most of these Mineski heroes. He can also do a very good job of protecting the Bristleback. So I think that's going to be pretty important here. I kind of like this pickup in terms of as an answer to the nuke and magic damage of Mineski that they may be a little bit too dependent on. Like, Mineski have an issue with dealing physical damage, and what amount they are able to deal with is going to be countered fairly well by Guardian Angel. So I do like this Omni pick, and he's got some lane sustainability as well. Not the easiest to zone him out.
I know we had an off-lane Omni yesterday. I was actually trying to look if it was actually Clutch Gamers, but it doesn't look like it was, so I guess it just happened to be another team. And actually, it was TNC now that I'm looking through. Yeah, TNC ran it against Geekfam there instead. So, but Clutch Gamers making it happen for themselves. Holy crap, they have 36-20 tower. I want to say that's like the highest I've seen, honestly, out of this event.
I've seen something in the 4,000s, but yeah, it is pretty high.
Let me guess, China?
No, here actually.
All right. Okay, so I apologize, guys. I'm trying to make sure my spectating's okay. This is a different setup they're using today, and fortunately it's not locking on like I would like it to. But anyways, other than that, we should be good here. All right. Actually, let's see.
So we're seeing a lot of early smoke plays come out. You see Fly Solo there smoking to place this ward up onto the high ground. A lot of that early support smoke to avoid detection, to be able to place wards unimpeded. You do see a 4-man smoke movement coming out from Mineski into the Dire side, where they're going to camp this rune here, where they have to go up onto the high ground. They're going to snake behind the trees up here and actually wait for an opportunity to see if they can grab a kill. And making this delayed move is fine because they know the Shadow Fiend's going to be spending time in base clearing some of those cogs. He's going to come over to the bounty rune, and if they haven't been spotted yet, and look at all these hiding spots here they have in the trees, it's going to be very difficult for them.
I love seeing this because every time we see a Shadow Fiend Clockwork strat, I always bring this up. Like, why isn't the team playing aggressive? In fact, we're going to see that engagement coming out right now. They want the Shadow Fiend, and they're going to get the Shadow Fiend. Everything comes out, including the LSA to help finish the job. Mushi on that Luna. Credit for the kill. That's probably the prime target as well, being that mid option. And now he's going to camp the boundary, which he also gets to top it all off. So the start for Mineski, I mean, that's huge, really, because I'm not saying you pick up Clockwork Shadow Fiend just simply for that, but that's obviously one of the big benefits is that early presence.
Oh yeah, that's a huge kill. I mean, reducing his souls and that great start that he would have in lane, and then giving Mushi the first blood, so he's basically a lane or two away, creeps away from having his bottle, and that's going to exert a tremendous amount of pressure. And then talking about the lanes, you have Arc down there on the Necrophos. Again, a hero that may not need to be protected too much against the Omni Knight. That frees up your supports to go do stuff elsewhere. It frees up your Night Stalker to go mid as he is right now, and that ties down Clutch Gamer supports as well. So pretty good start here coming out from Mineski.
Night Stalker, he's just going to push out Disruptor, and we'll head back to his own sign. Banneran's actually still up here, and Faceless Void eventually going to go pick it up, but that's not often you see Banneran sticking around that long, almost to the minute mark here at this point, but he's still pulling that creep wave, and Clockwork trying to do what he can with it, but that's not really a whole lot. His middle lane, Armel, on Shadow Fiend, takes some good damage himself, but will survive this time around, so... But definitely having to be careful. Night Stalker, it seems like that's going to be his job, is camping this middle lane and protecting Lina. How do you think that's going to fare overall? I mean, Disruptor with that, the Q ability, the Thunder Strike, it's a pretty annoying ability to deal with.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think they want Shadow Fiend to be under constant threat. If the Disruptor is there to help protect him, then it's reducing Shadow Fiend's levels. If his levels are reduced, it reduces his Shadow Rays and his being able to clear out waves. So slowing that down is definitely a good thing, and there's kill potential if at some point he's not there, as we see Fly Solo barely dodging the Light Striker Ray. They're coming out from Mushi.
Yeah, if that hits with the Dragon Slave, I don't know if it's a kill, actually. Only level 1 at both abilities, and it was pretty far away, so... nonetheless, though, it's still a good dodge on his part, and obviously makes sure to keep alive at the best case right there. So, doing a little bit of pulling, or attempting to do some stacking even In the meantime, set up for that Shadow Fiend, who obviously loves those stacked camps, especially those neutral in the jungle there. As the Illusion Rune going to be picked up by Lina for the time being. Top lane, though, Faceless Void, it seems like he's not too afraid to be fairly aggressive up here against the Bristleback, and he already has the magic stick even, so Faceless, are you expecting him to do pretty well?
Yeah, this is a good last pick Void for other reasons as well. You mentioned the lane. The hero is really only afraid if you have the burst damage to bring him down or some way of silencing him, stopping his time walk. This lane completely lacks that. Like with a melee support as well, there's no burst damage that can bring down the Faceless Void, so he can kind of just freely take his time up there. The Brizzle's not even going to bother wasting time harassing him in stick charges. It's just the two trading CS, and that's not bad for the Void. He's got both the Stout Shield and the Quelling Blade up and 65 base damage compared to the 57 of the Bristleback, who does not have a Quelling Blade. So in terms of last hits, I expect Void to be able to keep pace at the very least with the Bristle, if not beat him.
Do you think it's even necessary for him to go full on Iron Shield here, or does he not Iron Shield? What am I? Poor Man Shield? No. Yeah, Poor Man Shield. Poor Man Shield. What is it called? Wow, I'm totally blanking now.
It's Poor Man when you get the two agility.
Yeah, that's totally. I just had a complete mind lapse there, going back in history. Anyways, the Poor Man Shield. Is it necessary to get the Poor Man Shield? That's what I was getting at for Faceless.
Probably not. I mean, he's not under too much pressure or being harassed, really. It probably doesn't need to spend the gold on it if he doesn't want to. It could be useful later if he needs to retreat to the jungle, if he feels a need for that. And grab that Iron Talon, help him against jungle creeps. They're going to rotate behind him, though, and see if they can grab a kill, but there's just nothing in their toolkit that really threatens this Void.
I mean, Glimpse kinda, I guess, after a time walk, but that's it's just they don't really have the follow-up damage to really.
Yeah, and they'd have to force him to time walk in the first place, right? Like if they can't damage him, he has no reason to use his time walk before the Glimpse is out. So, not too much concern there for him. And again, that puts more pressure on the Shadow Fiend mid. Ninja Boogie's pretty much just up in his grill right now, and they are gonna be able to. Oh, nice juke there coming out from Armel. Is it gonna be enough? Nope. There's a second kill onto him.
Glimpse is a little bit too strong right there to, or not, attempted to be too strong to get him away, but obviously Shadow Fiend still goes down. So well played by the Radiant side right there, and getting that, making that kill happen. As just about to say though, I mean, you look at Shadow Fiend in this creep score, he's actually doing very well, managing 23 as Lena's only 17 currently after that kill, but. Of course, that's now the second death for Shadow Fiend. Obviously, the first one coming really at the beginning of the game as he was rotating into the jungle to go for the bounty rune. But clearly keeping the pressure up, and that's what you also like to see from your Night Stalker. He's level 3 now, roaming around in that first night and setting up a kill, especially in the middle lane.
Yeah, and I want to point out that generally speaking, this is a very different playstyle than we saw from Clutch Gamers kind of at their peak a month or two ago. They used to roam very aggressively with Boombox. They still sometimes do, like picking him like a Slardar, Clockwork, or even Monkey King, a hero that we haven't seen really much at all after some big nerfs. But usually they have a playmaker on one of their cores. I think it's usually played by Armel. He's on some Storm, Quap, some hero that runs around and makes things happen. But they've kind of switched to more of like two heavier cores that need farm and then almost deathball a little bit. So they've switched up their playstyle, maybe in response to struggling results on land. Not sure, and we'll have to see how that goes this game.
Yeah, that's been interesting with Clutch Gamers, as you kind of stressed right there, as far as they went through that phase where they were just qualifying for everything and became the dominant Southeast Asian team, it seemed like. And, you know, this is a team that had a lot of hype behind them, but then things happening from not even being able to go to Summit to, you know, poor performances of things like Epicenter and whatnot as middle lane. That's going to be a kill on Boombox, sure enough. Playing the Clockwork. I mean, Night Stalker got his Void off, but that was mostly Mushi with that Laguna Blade he used to finish the job. But, yeah, so Clutch Gamers almost trying to redeem themselves in some ways with these qualifiers here, getting to TI to make a point that, yes, that wasn't a fluke by any means. But right now at that 2-2 record, obviously behind 3-0 here against Mineski, so tough start for them. And is this just well played by Mineski, you think, and this is just their early game presence?
Yeah, like their lanes are just stronger, but on the other hand, though, it is going to come down a lot to mid-game teamfight execution. I think that in terms of what to do in teamfights, Clutch Gamers does have a little bit easier of a road. At some point, they kind of want to deathball and run at you, whereas for Clutch Gamers, the Chronosphere has to be very well placed. The positioning has to be cautious to not get picked off, and the damage has to be very precise because of how magic-heavy it is, like just leaning all towards magic damage. So not an easy road for them, although their early advantage is certainly going to help.
Apparently Clockwork wants to reconnect right there, so very slight, but going to be good to go shortly, I'm sure. Look at this, though. Lena's 20 seconds remaining on this Laguna Blade cooldown about. So, yeah, there's really no way he's going to feel comfortable going for that kill. If he has Laguna Blade, I mean, that really is a kill, but doesn't have it up, so Armel Doesn't even realize how close he was to death right there, but doesn't really matter because he's fine. And he's going to head over and do a little bit of jungling on the right side. But bottom lane, interesting stuff, as Clockwork's going to flank in against the Witch Doctor and the Necro, but can he really make a play out of this? Disruptor is running in as well. Witch Doctor doesn't actually have his Voodoo Restoration just yet. He's going to be pulled back by that Glimpse. Heal's coming out from Necro, but doesn't have another one up. Cooldown, so they will get the kill, as Repel was even applied to the Clockwork to make sure he can run him down with that battery assault. So it ends up being the kill on a Witch Doctor, but that's a 3-man rotation simply for the 5 support. I mean, it's a kill, though.
Yeah, it's basically all they're going to be able to get at that point, and then you see the sustain making it that much harder. They have to TP in the Disruptor to make that kill possible. That's a signal here to the Night Stalker that he doesn't have to worry about Disruptor interference mid, or he can kill whether the Shadow Fiend or Disruptor himself if he's there. So he is going to miss Armel, though, just kind of low and jungling through that camp. So timely dodge there, but Fly Solo is going to take the Laguna to the face.
Yeah, that must not feel good. Being bursted down pretty heavily right there as top lane. Okay, yeah, Faceless just using that time walk and getting away. This brings the creep lane into the tower, and going to start farming that now. But Yelena, her starts, obviously a very good one. Phase boots into the double null talisman, and currently another 550 gold saved up. What would you like to see on the Lina here? It seems like maybe the Yules could be the direction that he's going for, but it's either the Yules or the Bloodstone, or of course the soaring into the Bloodstone seem like the usual routes.
I think Yule's first might be a better choice here. There are a couple things that would be very annoying to him, whether it's being glimpsed into Static Storm or being hookshotted. Not that it would save him entirely from those, but it'd buy him a few seconds of time where he's not being damaged or bursted until help can arrive or until he can disengage himself from those situations.
Yeah.
So there is a big smoke, though, coming out here from Clutch Gamers. A 3-man smoke, including a core Shadow Fiend, which is a pretty rare rotation usually at this point. This is not going to be something that Mineski do seem to be expecting it, though. I don't see anybody on the map, and they're going to sit behind their tower, so heads up to them. Nice map board. I'm not sure if they saw the smoke with this ward by the bounty.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure either, but it almost seems like that they did, because the way that they're playing, they're playing way too defensive to the point of, yeah, they clearly got some kind of information. So wouldn't surprise me in the least if that's the case, but in the end, talking about Shadow Fiend, you know, he needs to get something with this. Even if it's a tower kill, I guess that's fine. And it seems like that they're possibly going to do that, although Necro... Okay, yeah, Necro actually ports out, realizing that they're still trying to hunt him down. So he'll get out safely, and that will be a Tier 1 tower kill. But now if you're the Radiant side, really trying to get something out of this yourselves, as Lena's just pushing out the middle, but I don't know if they're going to be able to take too much. Faceless up at the top lane, now Quinn supported from Omni Knight. Level 6 here, but Faceless does have that Chronosphere. We'll see if that comes into play in the near future. But yeah, not going to get an objective, so it ends up being pretty well played for Clutch. They get the tower kill.
Yeah, and Void, again, still having a good time with 46 CS, but this is one of the weaknesses of the Mineski lineup, not the best at taking objectives. So even if they do manage to get some kills, they almost count on your team being dead in order to take or pressure objectives themselves. So you can see, even with that huge rotation bottom, they still didn't have enough to take this mid tower outright, as Bristle is going to start clearing some, making some ancient stacks so that he can clear that and put himself in a good position while potentially freeing up his lane for support to go grab some XP and catch up a little bit.
So whenever we have a Bristle in the game, we always talk about the idea of a Silver Edge possibility, and you know, this game, the obvious candidate would be the Lina, if anything. Is that something that you think needs to be a priority, or is it something you maybe expect to see, or could they just live without it?
I think usually Linas will go Shadow Blade sometime after Bloodstone, so maybe down the road, if Mushi decides that this is a necessity, then he'll end up going for that Shadow Blade and the Silver Edge. But I'm not really too sure if the Silver Edge is entirely necessary. For one, if they manage to get him in the Chronosphere, they can just reposition themselves if they want to damage him or finish him off. For two, the Silver Edge, I mean, it gives you a bit of a window, but it's a lot of gold investment for the Lina, and oftentimes the window in which you Silver Edge him is not necessarily the window in which you can kill him either. And then that makes the item become like its sole function isn't even fulfilled. So
that's fair.
I'm not sure if they'll go that direction this time.
Look at Arc down here at the bottom lane. They're trying to set up a kill. Death Pulse coming out. That Maledict put up shortly after. Is it going to be enough? Maledict is level 3. Oh, well, it's definitely enough with the Reaper Scythe to finish the job right there. So, well played. And he actually has drums. That's what I was going to mention there. He used those drums actually to help chase down the Clockwork initially. Not your everyday pickup on a hero like Necro, but drums in general, of course, one of those great just team items to have. Are you surprised to see it on him, though?
Yeah, it is something that you don't commonly see from a Neko. Or I'd have thought that as a safe laner, he might go directly for an Atos or something if he wants to set up.
Oh, yeah, he is going to use it right here. He got glimpsed back, though. He was being glimpsed. He knew that. So I'm not exactly sure what the plan was, honestly. Oh, that was a very desperate play by Faceless.
That was the tower taking Chronosphere.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, that makes a little more sense then. I mean...
No, I'm joking. It wasn't actually a zoning Chronosphere, I don't think.
I guess there is a little bit of value there, like on that, but yeah, it's... I don't know if he just didn't realize that he got glimpsed or what, but he threw it out and all of a sudden he gets sent back.
The drums is interesting. The move speed, whether it's chasing somebody down or getting away from a gank, is an interesting boon. It gives him some stats too, so he's a little bit more durable. And if you want to invest in something that gives you this kind of stats and survivability, but isn't a full-on, say, an Atos or anything like that, that costs almost twice as much, that makes sense. And then he could move forward to something like potentially a Blink, Force Staff, most likely against a Clockwork, possibly even an Aghanims or something like that.
What about the whole like dig on Aghanims build? You know, this stomp style of Necro. Is that a realistic build, or is that more just like a pub stomp thing?
I think the Dagon, well, Dagon you'll see at most, I think, one level of it, not upgrading it. I think it's more of a pub thing, because then you're very dependent on getting kills with it. And if the other team sees you doing that and you don't manage to get kills, you can very quickly fall behind it.
Yeah.
Greatly impacts your survivability and your scaling. So it's usually a bit too all-in or a bit too limited for competitive play, at least.
Smoke up towards the top lane, coming out from the dire side. Omni Knight is level 8, doesn't have the Guardian Angel just yet, so keeping that in mind if a fight does break out here. Disruptor, though, has that Static Storm being level 6. Gonna look for an engagement to happen. Chronosphere, it's still on cooldown for another 35 seconds. Faceless Void gonna be spotted first, it seems like. He has time walk up, though. See if he's able to get this off in time, so knowing that he's in the face. Lena, they would like to get her killed. Throws the Yules up on Omni Knight, though, first. LSA is going to miss. Glimpse back onto the Faceless. Out of the Static Storm, though. He'll be fine for now. Disruptor going to be healed up through the Laguna Blade damage, but the Funnel Auto attack comes out and gets the kill. And a Faceless Void, he's being stunned. But as that cast bounces around in his favor, though, he time walks the other direction and keeping them chasing him, but they're also taking some damage in the process. Mushi's out of mana now, though. Got to be careful about going too deep into this one. Bristleback running him back down. Mag pops a wand right there. He gets the gun of Luna, though. But Mag, the Chronosphere, is ready to go. He's looking for a place to use it. Reaper Scythe will execute the Omni Knight, and now it's just the Bristleback that is left at this point. We do have somebody else running in. Clockwork is very low, so he gets a kill onto Night Stalker, but now Bristleback stuck in that Chronosphere, so he's able to pound him from the front. But it still doesn't really do the most damage, but that Maledict should eventually finish the job right here. And there we go. Double kill for Necro when it's all said and done, but now Shadow Fiend's joining the party. Gets here a little late, though, and by then they've all retreated. So that was a long-lasting fight, but I guess that's just a taste of things to come with the lineups of these teams here.
Yeah, there's going to be some back and forth, and then the Shadow Fiend not being there was kind of important for them. But there you see, well, the Bristleback making his presence felt finally in this first big skirmish. Took a ton of damage there, and I like that casual Hood of Defiance pickup as well. Kept him alive for a bit, and he managed to take down Mushi too, which is a pretty big return kill. And it's going to slow down Mushi's momentum. But it looks like Mushi's going to, instead of that Bloodstone, go straight for that Shadow Blade. So based on that, I think you're right. He is going to try and get that Ethereal Blade kind of early on to deal with this Bristleback. But a pretty nice fight from Clutch Gamers. I think they were able to hold their ground in the time. Armel was able to get up some more farm and finish his own Shadow Blade. So despite his rough early start, he's stayed in this game pretty nicely.
Faceless Void. Speaking of his progress, it looks like the eventual Solar Crest is going to be coming out right here as Medallion first, of course. I mean, going the Vlads into that now. This is an off-lane Faceless Void technically, but being that Necro's their safe laner, wouldn't you almost rather see him maybe... Okay, he actually switched to that, that's what I was going to say. It's maybe like the Diffusal, and sure enough, he swaps that up. So he's still kind of deciding if anything, but to me, this makes more sense. What about you?
Yeah, I think some kind of damage scaling that they're not getting just from the nuke and the magic damage of the other heroes. I mean, there's almost certainly going to be a pipe this game coming out from Clutch Gamers, and maybe you would have liked to see it not on your core Bristleback, maybe somebody else if they say the Omni was getting lots of farm. But that's not going to be the case, it looks like, as Omni's about to finish up his Midas.
Going to be a good item to have there. Of course, that's going to enhance that farm to get the eventual... I mean, you'd figure the Guardian Greaves are going to naturally almost come out on the Omni Knight sooner than later. We talked about the idea of the hood, but or the pipe even, but already having the hood on Bristleback, yeah, probably going to be more on his side. Meanwhile, the engagement up here, though, and they do get the quick pick on Disruptor, and Shadow Fiend picked off. He was doing Ancients was Bristleback in the meantime. In fact, he's still trying to finish them off. He won't get the last bit of them, though, and they'll come in to clean it up with a Radiant of Mineski and take the last bit. Oh, that's gotta sting, man. Because Bristleback, not only did he not help his team as a result, but, I mean, they got jumped very quickly, to be fair. He couldn't finish off the last of the Ancients, though.
Yeah, and you see how quickly Mineski want to start 5-manning here? That sustain that they possess is very good early on. With the amount of heal that comes out from each Death Pulse or from the Witch Doctor, has more value early on in the game when you have that much less damage and when the heal's proportionally for that much more. Like if you think about a 200 heal, something like that, or rather 120 AoE heal, that's not going to do so much later on, right? But at this point in the game, both the heal and the damage that it does makes them very difficult to fight against until we see more itemization coming out from Clutch Gamers. So good timing there. Mineski's still very much ahead in terms of the kills, and then still ahead a good amount in the net worth. But the big question is, can they take objectives off this? They did manage to take a tier 2 top, but the other objectives are not falling. And this is also a team, keep an eye on, that they're very slow at roshing. So if they do take a good fight, Roshan is something usually teams will try to secure off. That not necessarily the case, and they basically won't be able to sneak Rosh.
We're talking about the Radiant side, Mineski?
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't really have much to, amp their damage up against the Roshan, so something that could be interesting to see if perhaps the Dire side is able to take advantage of that and, even get it for themselves, ninja it even. You got Necro finishing a Blink Dagger, so this is just like full-on utility Necro. Feels like you got the drums and a Forest Staff into now a Blink, so he's plenty mobile and again has utility for the team, as mentioned, as Faceless Void is going to run into the Disruptor. Static Storm goes off, though, with that kinetic field. The Cogs also blocking him in, and he finally gets a time walk off, but he actually... Was that a glimpse? That must have been a glimpse, huh? That pulled him right back as soon as he used a time walk, but he'll pop the Chronosphere to actually ultimately escape. That looked a little funky, but you know what? He gets out. I think that's worth the Chronosphere there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're talking about there with the difficulty of killing the Faceless Void. At the same time, though, if you had a hero like Necrophos, you wouldn't want them to be in that position, and that might kind of explain his itemization towards mobility, where he doesn't want to be in the absolute front waiting there for the fight. He wants to be able to blink in or force step in to get the finish on someone and then start chasing people down with his drum. So the mobility does make sense there for Mineski on this Necrophos.
Yeah. And now, oh, that's kind of curious. Necro actually even has that Silver Edge queued up. I mean, we'll see if he changes his mind from now and then, but definitely not a hero expected in, but actually Fly Solo gets picked up in the meantime. Omni-Knight already ports in. That's one of those, yeah, you probably should have not went through with that TP there. He thought he probably could just like throw on a repel or something and survive, but he didn't even have time to do so. He even had Guardian Angel ready to go, but that would have been, again, a very ambitious use of that cooldown, so that seems silly, and Clutch almost throws themselves at them, and now they're going to lose a Tier 2 tower on top of that. Clutch, honestly, playing a little sloppy there. And they're not going to lose a Tier 2 tower, though, because Invulnerability comes out. But Mineski, still overall satisfied, I'm sure. Lina, of course, a Shadowblade finish as we're... Whoa, I'm doing horrible right here. Shadow Fiend. Was that a Requiem? Sure was.
Yep, the old Shadowblade Requiem combo found the Void farming up there a bit too confidently. Void has a small sliver of time to react and time walk away, but was unable to do so. But it's still a risky and difficult kill for him to get, and the Shadowblade does need to pay off. Like, it feels like you have to get multiple kills or at least escape from a fight with it for it to be worth it, instead of just getting more like stand in your face and fight you type of items.
Yeah. Faceless, of course, Chronosphere is not up either. Going up cooldown in about 10 seconds here, but not in time to save him in that case. Nightstalker, though, his medallion is finished. Now the Solar Crest coming along pretty nicely. Currently is nighttime for another 3.5 minutes. We'll see if that comes into play. Seems like it's a very high possibility down here at the bottom lane. As already in that area. Shadow Fiend followed up the Shadow Blade with that Dragon Lance, and seems like a Hurricane Pike is on his mind. A 3,000 net worth lead right now, though, in favor of Mineski, as well as just under 1,500 experience lead. You got them moving as a team, though. Not necessarily, it's almost like they look like they're smoked up, but they aren't smoked, and so they're kind of just running in, and, well, that's going to be information for Nightstalker. Unfortunately, he's still close enough. He gets glimpsed in. He's trying to fly over the ledge right here. That's not going to work. The Cog's kind of blocking him. Now, they actually help him kind of right there. Push him over the ledge. If he lives here, that's got to... Oh, my gosh. Oh, that's got to hurt. You can't blame Clockwork there at all, but that just happened to be the favorite to the Nightstalker. And now they're going to push the middle Tier 3 here on top of this. They actually stopped this. Bristleback is porting in with the clockwork, so definitely, but it doesn't seem like Mineski is going to go cutthroat here necessarily into the base.
Yeah, there you see some of the limitations of Clutch. Like they have pretty good death ball team fight, but they don't have much in the way of catch except the Disruptor. As you know, we talked about Shadow Fiend. Hey, you can get the Shadow Blade, pick up that kill, but that costs you the early survivability. If you do get caught, then you're just going to go down like that. So it's kind of like a public game trap that you see happen a lot of times, where people will, you know, get that Shadow Blade rather, and try to snowball off of it. But if you don't succeed and you die once or twice, suddenly you're very far behind, very far away from your BKB. And this is one thing to keep an eye on too. Like, the death ball from Clutch Gamers is strong, but the amount of slip push that exists from Mineski will keep the waves pushed. If you lose a fight, you have a very hard time getting out of your base again, and or potentially even defending high ground from pressure from multiple areas. So that's a pretty clutch pickup there from Mineski. Very crucial fight for them.
That Sentry War is there from a previous fight, too. It's actually just about to wear off right here, so you almost feel bad for Shadow Fiend that he happened to run right over that area as they were coming back. And sure enough, they met there at the same time. So Shadow Fiend just now going to be resurrecting, but this will definitely be the tower kill, as Invulnerability is going to be on cooldown this time around. And there we go. Easy one for them. Faceless Void even has the BKB now queued up. You already got the Diffusal finished, of course. But BKB coming along. And now BKB, I'm kind of looking at this other team. I mean, I guess the Disruptor alone is definitely an issue. So is that probably why the main reason he's getting, you think?
Yeah, like if you look at the damage, in terms of sustained physical damage, you've got the right clicks from the Shadow Fiend, who isn't really there yet in terms of big right clicking items, and then you have the Bristleback, which has not really bursty physical damage, but kind of like consistent physical damage. You're not worried about that all in your Void Toolkit. So what you are worried about is being locked down by the Disruptor ult, being unable to cast Chronosphere, being unable to time walk out of it. Those are the things that would kill you, and so that's a good pickup for him. It also allows him to deal much more damage in fights. It kind of feels like if you send him alone to go deal with the backline, that's all you need.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody else. He'll just diffuse whoever and just pound them to death. So
well, that's kind of the idea. I almost think of like a Faceless Void, the classic idea. You know, he can get just solo kills with that Chronosphere. And Mask of Madness is definitely an item that maybe comes to mind. Of course, that's more of the somewhat of an old school style. But could you see Mask of Madness as actually relevant on a Faceless?
Potentially for a core still. Like before, like you said, there was an era where you'd get the Chronosphere and the Mask of Madness treads, you'd be able to just swipe someone to death, and anybody who came to your lane would just die and get solo killed. That time is probably not still here, and then the drawbacks of, you know, Mask of Madness. So most likely not out of the offlane position. It's more of a utility selection.
So they smoked up, and well, they're going to smoke up again right here, actually. Heading towards the Roshan pit. They probably figure it's happening, and I can understand why. I mean, darkness just happened, so they're going to check it, but they realize now it's not the case. And they're going to keep their distance, though. Last thing they want to do is throw themselves into Mineski with that Chronosphere ready to go. Nightstalker checking it as well, but both teams kind of playing that game of chicken now. Of they both think one of the other is doing or attempting the Roshan, but that's not necessarily the case. Clutch Gamers, you got Lotus Orb now finished on Bristleback. Appeared to be a strong item now with the pipe also queued up on top of it, actually. So yeah, we have not seen Omni Knight yet. Really, we haven't really seen that team fight yet for Clutch, and that's where Omni Knight shines, if anything. So I almost think that's kind of a weak point of Clutch as well. They've happened to get picked off, whether it's in one or two, you know, two of them at a time. If a team fight breaks out, though, Guardian Angel goes out to repel on something like that Shadow Fiend. Seems like that Clutch Gamers definitely is in a spot to win these fights.
Yeah, the 5-on-5, the longer it lasts, I think they do have a bit of an edge there, but it's about whether key heroes get picked off in the first round of spells. If you're talking about ultimates from Lina and the Necrophos, and of course the Faceless Void as well, they're very ultimate dependent to take fights, so if they don't get a decisive edge, let's say they're not able to kill the Bristleback or the Shadow Fiend, then, you know, and they trade themselves for, say, the Clockwork and the Disruptor, then with the spells that they have left, they won't be able to take the rest of the fight, so they have to be very careful. Also, in terms of being suspicious of Roshan, I think for Clutch Gamers, you can be fairly certain that Mineski's not going to be taking Rosh without a huge advantage, just because they deal damage against it so slowly. So you don't really have to panic about Rosh, I think, if you're Clutch Gamers. Yeah,
you were talking about that earlier, and that makes sense. And so you almost hope that Clutch Gamers is really keeping that in mind, because that most certainly is the case. But again, with this being the second day here, both these teams 2-2, and as we keep stressing, it's very important here. This means a lot to all these teams. 3 of these 10 teams in Southeast Asia are going to be going to the International, so sometimes you may overlook those simple things as a result. But for now, they're they're doing what they need to do, just continue to farm. They got the second and third best net worth on the Shadow Fiend, as well as the Bristleback. By the way, Lena, who's topping, well, now Shadow Fiend just passed there, but they're basically at top together. Silver Edge is finished on Lena now, and Necro did choose to go in Ags instead. And yeah, to me, that makes a lot more sense, especially since they already had the Silver Edge in the works onto Lena. So, again, I'm sure they were just kind of contemplating some ideas. Figure it's not necessary. Let's just go ahead and get that Ags. Ags is really good on this hero. The cooldown makes it a 25-second cooldown. Essentially, you can get off, especially with how long these fights can last, as we're talking about. You could get off 2 Reaper Scythe if you use one at the beginning and then one near the end.
Yeah, absolutely. The Aghanims, again, gives him a bit more survivability. As you mentioned, gives them another round of damage. If that first round isn't enough to decide the fight, the clock is going to be ticking. The longer he stays alive, the more of a threat that second Aghanim Scepter ult is, especially with the Heartstopper aura just ticking away at Clutch's heroes. And since Clutch don't have a lot of catch, they're kind of dependent on their spells in a different way. Not so much for damage, but dependent on their cooldowns for control.
Yeah.
Once those ults are down, they don't have a way of holding people in place unless you're counting the Bristleback's nasal goo. And so that's going to make it very difficult for them to finish fights too.
Jeez. Oh, the Disruptor, he was just simply trying to warn, and you got a Sentry down, and that's about it. So they find him pretty easily. Laguna played 50-second cooldown now, as he used it to secure that kill. 28 more 100 gold, though, saved up on Lena. So, again, he passed up the Bloodstone altogether. It's 28 minutes of the game. He's definitely not going to be going for that now. But hold that thought, though, for a second, because we have a Smoke King coming out here, and this definitely could result in something big for Mineski. They're trying to find some kind of target. They may cut off the Clockwork, especially the Bristleback here, as they're heading back to base currently. But no, they do a good job being defensive enough. They scan. They don't actually hit the scan, but they are going to actually keep their distance enough to survive and be fine. Going back to Lena, though, so where do we think she goes from here now that she has the Silver Edge? Does she maybe translate into more of a right-click presence? Or?
Yeah, I think that's usually the progression for Lena. I think she goes for something like a Shiva's Guard, perhaps. The armor is very helpful against the Shadow Fiend and the Bristleback. The slow also helps deter them and bog them down a little bit, and then I think she might go into more hard-click, right-click items, potentially something like a Daedalus. That we see Lena's pick up quite often.
Yeah.
She's probably well on the path to transitioning towards that right click.
She's running up right here and falling back currently with that Silver Edge active. So I'm going to get a glimpse. There, sure they did. Night Stalker. Glimpse back in. The kinetic field keeping him in place. Chronosphere going to go out. Catches 2 supports in the back lines, but can he really do enough to them? Time Dilation popped as well. Shadow Fiend uses the Requiem from a distance, but Clockwork gets picked up by that Reaper Scythe. Meanwhile, blinks away on the Necro right there, and Lena keeping her distance with the Silver Edge. And now you see back here, Faceless Void finishes the kill on the Clockwork. The Guardian Angel came out, but of course with that Diffusal Blade, he's able to purge that off and finish the job. So yeah, the Chronosphere seemed a little odd, but you know what? It caught the Omni Knight was really the key when you think about it, as we stress in these fights. I mean, that's going to be the turnaround, if anything, potential for Clutch Gamer. So I guess that's where he's happy with the Chronosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of, not even necessarily used for damage or something like that. Just being able to separate the fights to keep the distance for their cores a little bit away from Clutch Gamers. That's already good enough. They can isolate someone and burst them down while the Void is being disruptive, and they're going to go for Roshan now.
An attempt to do it at least. As you're talking about, though, it's not the quickest Roshan team. They do have the Solar Crest. Here comes Bristleback, though, with the Repel running in. And they are going to kill it, however. The Aegis going to be picked up by Mushi. Glimpse back on a Ninja Boogie, but he's still nearby. Lotus Orb reflects the cocktail, actually. The cask bouncing around. They pick off Night Stalker. And now Mag's in the midst of it, but he time walks forward to heal on up and be fine for now. Lena also trying to survive through this again. She has the Aegis worst case, finishes the job on Disruptor. She's still running away, but that aura of Omni Knight keeping her nearby. The Degenar kicking in, but not going to be enough. And now Rappy has to run for his life. Repel goes up, but the auto attacks are too much. And the Reaper Scythe cuts right through him to finish the job again. Gabby now, the back turn to the Necro. Shadow Fiend, you're worried about him living, though. That's not going to work. He gets bashed down. He's dead for 70 seconds, no buyback. Uh-oh. This is a big chance for Mineski now to really open up this game here. And they're still going. Clockwork? Yeah, he's probably dead too, huh? Really, he's actually going to come back and he's ass screwed. I want to kill the Lena. No, Reaper Scythe instead, and now he's dead for 75 seconds. I mean, that's big. These Reaper Scythes are making this the duration that much longer. And that goes back to the Axe as well. That was the Axe cooldown effect kicking in.
Yeah, you hit this timing, and then if you lose a fight, one of your heroes basically has to buy back if you want to be in any subsequent fights, especially going towards the base. We've mentioned the heal already and the amount of work that has done. for them. And it's been pretty solid. And the Heartstopper Aura obviously just like kind of chipping away at enemy heroes that want to be up close to deal damage for the most part anyway. So it's been things have really come together for Mineski, I think. I think they've overall been pretty happy with their game plan, and right now they're in a constricting position where they can try to lock this one off and finish it.
That's exactly what they're trying to do. Chronosphere, it's going to catch the Omni Knight once again in the back lines. Omni Knight can maybe get the Guardian Angel off. Still 10 more seconds on that cooldown. We'll have the Guardian Greaves to pop, and pops a Repel as well. Bristleback in the midst, though. The Maledict is up. Laguna Blade from the back, so not the most. Reaper Scythe comes out and still doesn't kill him. He's going to stay alive. That's what you get with a Bristleback and his back turned. And just like that, 4 are dead for Mineski. The only survivor is Necro, and that may not even last the longest time. He has 4 Staff Disruptors hunting for him. Not going to find him, though. A Blink's coming up in 1 second. And he's not going to use it, though. He's being very safe about this, but...
He detects the Shadow Fiend aura, I believe so.
Oh, no. He gets caught. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he wanted... that was a tough call. I mean, in hindsight, I think he definitely would have been better off just blinking and running, but no matter what, he still might have got caught by that glimpse. And that's a full cleanup, man. I mean, Clutch Gamers just jumped right back into this game, and it's that tunnel vision syndrome against a Bristleback. Still, teams seem like they don't understand how tanky he can be.
I want to point this out. I believe it is Mushi's Mineski squad. I'm not sure if this is the same group of players that lost a huge lead against Clutch Gamers in the qualifiers. I think it was like a 40k lead or something, 2x, like an epic comeback game. And that last fight onto high ground, was that the window that Clutch Gamers needed? It was a bit of a... it was just such an unfortunate fight. Again, you damaging the Bristleback with his back turn, the Reaper Scythe, all the damage triggering all the Quill Sprays and just getting your team killed. I mean, feels like they're almost better off ignoring him and taking objectives unless he gets really, really low.
Laguna Blade, Reaper Scythe, I mean, they used everything to shotgun him down, and it still wasn't enough. And now BKB's popped, the rest goes down. Gotta be careful here. Lena's actually in a lot of trouble. She gets caught. I believe she would have a buyback, worst case. Requiem explodes them. Mushi just trying to run with the Silver Edge away. Laguna Blade turns and kills Clockwork, but she does go down. She buys back immediately, however. But this Bristleback still very tanky. Shadow Fiend, he's caught by the Chronosphere. However, he's still being healed up by the Omni Knight. Reaper Scythe goes off. It's not enough for the kill, though. They want the kill. They'll get the kill, but he is going to be able to buy back. Again, worst case for him. Omni Knight also gets caught. They're going to run him down and finish the job. TP out from Bristol actually is successful somehow. So he will survive himself, and Disruptor keeping his distance, trying to get out of here on top of that. But you know what? Even with what happened, you got a buyback, you got the melee racks. I think Clutch, they're satisfied overall.
Yeah, given how the rest of this game has progressed, you've got to be pretty happy with that. And I think there is a bit of sense of urgency now on the part of the Radiant. They don't have a Roche to secure right now, but they're going to try to take some objectives to even this out, especially with Mushi buying back. They absolutely have to get a lot from this. Maybe 2 lanes of Raxes for it to be worth it. And given the tankiness of this Bristleback, I'm not really sure if that's going to be the case. He's got a Pipe and a BKB and a Lotus Orb, and for all these single target, like kind of right-click abilities, I'm not sure if he's really afraid of any of those.
I mean, he's broken right here, but the Lotus Orb is up. So yeah, the Silver Edge, it goes. I think you had a really good point earlier that even though you were wrong in the sense that they ended up picking it up, I think your point still stands that maybe they would have been better off not going for that. More of a traditional, different build on the Lina, but we'll talk about that later on as now Mushi's just trying to live again. This would be a dieback if he goes down, so it's a good thing that he does survive as the BKB use right there from Bristleback keeps him alive as well as he falls back into the base. But you're even seeing right there with that break effect kicking in, they just really couldn't feel comfortable targeting him. Lotus Orb helping to keep him alive, and he just walks it off essentially right here. So not that the Silver Edge is completely useless by any means, but that's a lot of gold invested into an item with the ultimate idea being it's going to help you kill Bristleback, and that's not really happening as a hero 7-1-4 right now.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like you Silver Edge him. So what? He's still tanky. He's still got a Pipe, which is the majority of your damage. He's still got a high HP pool, being magical damage, and it doesn't really, it doesn't solve that problem for you. If anything, the Shadow Blade is usually a tempo pickup on Lina in the sense of the other team now has to buy sentry wards to count for you going around and trying to get gank pickoffs. But when you're just 5-manning, it feels like for the last 15-20 minutes, they don't really have to account for that because you're not off getting solo pickoffs by yourself, really. So you shove out the lanes if you're a Dire, and then you make them show. And then once they show where they are or they respond to lane pressure, then you know whether you can fight them or run away. So I think that's worked pretty well for CG. And, I mean, that fight onto the high ground, I think that was really... If there's one turning point in this game, that has got to be it. The Bristleback taking the Reaper Scythe with his back turn.
Still can't believe how well that went for them. And, I mean, on top of it all, the only buyback they had that fight was the Omni Knight. I mean, Shadow Fiend, obviously, he didn't even have to And now you have Lena down to buyback for another 5 minutes, a huge window for Clutch Gamers, a team that's also that much better at doing Roshan, who should be up in the next couple of minutes here or so, and a chance for them to be able to accomplish. As a result, top lane, Requiem, trying to burst him down quickly, not enough. Ooh, they thought they had the damage, they did not, but you know what, Armel's like, I still got this. Chronosphere comes out, and Mag, if anything, just trying to live, as out comes the Laguna Blade on Clockwork, they get the kill there. And Mag on a time walk again to survive, so they just underestimated a little too much as far as their damage output, but not the worst return, as they only get Clockwork killed, at least.
Void is going for that Aghanim Scepter, which greatly reduces the cooldown on his ultimate. Brings it down to 60 seconds, which it was once upon a time in that era that you were talking about where people were so afraid of Chronosphere.
Yeah.
I was always up and you'd always kill somebody with it. So I think this is a smart move. It feels like they need this extra bit of control. They can use a Chronosphere and then just go ahead and kill 1 or 2 heroes and then back off if they need to. And it'll be back up soon enough. It'll help them secure Roshans as well as... It's hard to say that they should go for a bit of a longer game, but I think the option of ending the game at this early juncture is basically off the table, as Clutch Gamers has taken a net worth lead as well.
I don't know about you, but it seems like I still go back to you can consider Lena a right click here. Oh, she went Bloodstone, by the way. Wow, this is a very late Bloodstone at 38 minutes into the game. First off, I want to get your initial reaction on that. What do you think of that choice?
I was surprised. I thought usually you'd get that Bloodstone before the Silver Edge. I thought that would be the item progression at all if she was going to get a Silver Edge. I actually taken the Bloodstone for granted before, but to get the Bloodstone after the Silver Edge when the flow of kills is also not really coming in anymore, and you're not getting these kind of pick-offs to add to it, or you're not in a situation where, say, you win a fight, she dies with Bloodstone, heals your team, gets right back into the fight, and you're able to push or do more. That scenario doesn't really exist at this point, so Bloodstone feels like a very large investment. And additionally, if you talk about other items that you could get, so I believe with the recent change, hexes apply breaks to Bristleback. And if that being the case, you get something like a Hex, gives you a second source of break. You have that much more time to try to chew through him. With damage, it gives you also like more instant initiation for some other targets. It gives you a chance to like instantly disable someone who closes the gap with you. Like it's just good in a number of ways, especially before Linken's or anything else is up that instant speed disable. Whereas the Yules is no longer reliable for that at this juncture in the game. So I feel like there were other options, or as you mentioned before, maybe we expected him to just go for right click.
Yeah. Well, so that's kind of what I was getting at with the Faceless Void talk. Because, okay, if is not going to be going for it, then maybe Faceless Void should have. Because so this initial build, I think is fine. I think no matter what you're playing, if Laz and a Diffusal and a Blink, that's good. The Axe is where I have the issue now, personally, of... we've already seen now several times they're lacking that damage output. He's gotten some decent Chronospheres off, but he's not able to kill the targets until like very later on. Whereas if he had a Maelstrom on top of this, or even dare I say full-on Mjolnir, just more of that right click, then he would be able to kill that target through just the Chronosphere and get that one pick off in the beginning of the fight. It just seems like that they're really committed themselves more and more to just winning that one big team fight and then trying to win the game off of that, rather than keeping up sustain throughout the game and give them that late game skilling presence. So that's why I'm not as sold on the Ags here. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. You've changed my opinion of the Ags with what you said as well. Again, their damage type is a little bit too uniform. It's all magic damage. You're up against a pipe. You're up against high HP. And you're up against potentially Repel, as we do see the Chronosphere coming out here onto the Shadow Fiend.
But the damage, it's not necessarily there. Oh, now it's definitely there. The war comes out from the Witch Doctor. PKP's up, though. The Guardian Angel going to be thrown up as well. It will keep him alive. Now here comes the turn. Clockwork running in, trying to get the cogs up. He did not use them in time, though. The Force Staff out from Arc will keep him alive. How is nobody dead? I'm a little surprised at that right now. The fact that nobody's died throughout this fight just yet. The Force Staffs are strong right now. Disruptor keeping his distance, glimpse back on the Faceless, but he goes right back in with a time walk, the time dilation as well. Also caught the Bristleback, I believe. No, that's out of range, actually. But Disruptor goes down. Mag still wants more, actually, and you know what? The Nags maybe working out here a little bit, although he needs to be careful about overcommitting. And he does fall back as the Shrine was popped. So they're going to try to go for Roshan, but as we keep stressing, I mean, even now, they're not the quickest Roshan team, so the Dire side has time to react. Chronosphere up in 10 more seconds. We'll see if he's going to be able to get a timing with this. Necro's being locked in meanwhile. Force F's finally over the ledge and survives for the time being, but the Chronosphere up in a couple seconds. You know that's going to be coming here. You know that's exactly what they're resetting for. Bristleback He's trying to run people down. Meanwhile, the Chronosphere does go off. Clockwork dropping a half-life. Laguna Blade will finish the job, but Shadow Fiend's still well alive in the midst of it. Repels up on him. Lena, she's just trying to run, stay alive. Shiva's used by Neko right there in the midst of everything. Omni Knight also taking some good damage, but the Lotus Orb thrown up on him. He will eventually go down as the Reaper Scythe takes him out, and he's dead for 100 seconds. No buyback. Blink away from Neko, by the way, to avoid the auto attack and stay alive himself. Mag, though, glimpse back in, and Mag is going to be finished off. He's dead for 80 with no buyback. Mushi now needs to be careful not to get caught herself and keep her distance. Has another phase boost, just going to throw out the LSA. Well played, has a TP, and should be able to get out now with it right there. So, whew, another crazy, chaotic fight. I don't even know who you give credit for the victory there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, you did have that Chronosphere coming back the Ags and reducing the cooldowns, but again, like you said, just lacking damage. And maybe a slight mistake there for Clutch Gamers for Bristleback to kind of break off from the pack and start chasing on his own. They do have multiple tools for kiting him. That was the kind of issue with control that we talked about earlier, as we see another fight breaking out here by the Ancients.
Baseless buying back. Now, this is key. Remember, if he buys back, dies right here, this could be a game-winning move in favor of Clutch Gamers. BKB, Popeye Bristle. Requiem was going out there for a second, but he chose not to. They see this Shadow Fiend. Laguna Blade, the Chronosphere finally goes out. This is their chance to get the kill. Omni Knight not up for another 35 seconds, and down goes Shadow Fiend. He has a buyback, not going to use it just yet. The Disruptor goes down as well, and Clockwork trying to run away, but they're going to slow him down with that Ghost Rider. The Reaper Scythe makes him dead for 75 seconds now with no buyback, and Bristleback on the run. If they catch him on top of this all, they're not going to, though. Faceless was the only one chasing. They want Roshan. They're going to get it. The Aegis for them. You know what? That's going to be big, because that's Cheese and Aegis, and maybe a chance to actually break into the base now and get the racks here.
Yeah, good fight there coming out from them. Again, like Clutch Gamers, they kind of have to stay in formation. They almost made a clutch play at the end. You saw the Disruptor coming in with the Static Storm to stop the Reaper Scythe from being delivered onto the Necrophos. So that was actually pretty clutch, but that was their last source of control, and they just don't have the environment to deal damage under those conditions. And so this goes back to another, kind of item choice. If you have the Bristleback going for pure defensive items, where he's kind of like carrying all the auras, then you need something that deals damage. Yeah. Not that the Shadow Fiend has a shortage in that, right? But they don't have the ability to control. So Bristleback, if you see him usually go for something like an Abyssal or something that offers a little bit more control or slow, it will allow him to get in there and deal damage too, but that's not really been the case so far.
Shadow Fiend, speaking of that, he actually does have the Butterfly. I haven't really mentioned too much about that yet, but you almost see a little bit of the reaction now coming out from Faceless Void. He does have an MKB queued up. And we talk about lacking damage, that'll help a bit. In fact, Diffusal Blade number 2 was actually picked up before these kind of fights broke out here recently, so in that sense, he is also looking to enhance his damage. And again, especially if he can get the MKB, then I think overall a little more satisfied. I do feel like his attack speed is maybe still a little bit lacking. That's why I like the idea of maybe that Maelstrom, if anything. But as far as scaling into the later game, the MKB definitely makes sense, especially, again, with the Butterfly purchase of the Shadow Fiend right here. But now the question is, Mineski, what do they do with this window? Because they have the Aegis for the next several minutes here or so. They have the Cheese on top of them. I'm guessing Lena has it. No, did she? She didn't sell it, did she? No, it's on Necro, actually. Maybe there's, I guess you could argue maybe they would like to wait for the MKB, but that's still a bit away, and it might take a little bit too long to finish that item here. Necro, 3,000 gold saved up. I mean, is there something that he maybe can get that would help this push here?
I think he's got to consider getting a Scythe as well. Like, they've just got to,
yeah,
either break the Bristle or blow up these heroes or stop them from interfering in the fight at least. You do see some Necros go for Radiance. I think it's a little bit too late for that. I doubt he'd go in that direction, but it does add to their early damage output and presence in fights and causes that miss chance as well. That could keep them alive a little bit longer against Clutch Gamers.
I honestly think a Radiance could still be pretty relevant. The miss chance is still always going to be relevant. Again, the little more right-click presence from a Necro is never, I don't think, a bad thing either. As we keep on going back to, that's maybe what they're just overall lacking in this game, so why not get the Radiance to help encourage that idea? But at the same time, a Scythe is always a good option, especially when you have a Blink on top of that already, and even a Force Staff, so yeah, really kind of arguing with my own self here. I think I've realized that, yeah, Scythe seems like the little more relevant option.
That's one of the cool things about Dota. We end up arguing with ourselves all the time. There's just so many things to weigh,
Yeah, absolutely is. Like Clockwork, what is he going to do now? Force Staff is pretty obvious there. No Ags for him. I'm sure we'd like one, but
Good position right now
far.
from Mineski. They're kind of constricting the map a little bit. Like they have all this vision up on the Dire side. Dire doesn't have any vision really on the Radiant side, so they've got to be super careful. One thing, I was talking to the coach of Happy Feet, Scantas. They're going to do some split pushing here.
Well, Lena's going to get caught, actually. She does have the Bloodstone. I mean, may need to use it right here. Actually, she just dies straight up. Zamushi, he was almost playing that like he had the Aegis himself, honestly.
Yeah, I was totally expecting him to come back from the Aegis. He didn't even get off a Bloodstone suicide there. He just went down. And I think he was expecting his team to either be more of a threat mid or to be able to, say, drop a Chronosphere and stop them from reaching him.
Yeah.
But that was just not the case. They weren't like positioned altogether to defend mid at all. As soon as they saw Mushi go down there, they were kind of waiting in the back already to dodge Chronospheres, and that gave them the option to go to Mushi's lane instead of come down that lane. So like if they had committed to defending the mid lane, then they'd be in position to be disrupted. But that wasn't the case.
That had to be, yes, some kind of miscommunication, because even on top of that, she popped her BKB at the last second. Like, it just made absolutely no sense what happened right there, and that just looked very sloppy. So that's, you know, it's not like, I don't think they threw the game right there by any means, but, well, Chronosphere actually catches two. And gonna kill the targets. Disruptor, pretty squishy. Lotus Orb, it's actually gonna reflect onto their Necro. Not that it really matters right there, but Disruptor's dead for 90 seconds now. So you know what? Maybe that was the game plan. Kind of have her suicide herself in a sense, and have Clutch feel a little more comfortable moving out, and then they pick off a target. And now she's up already.
Yeah, if you do pick off these supports with Reaper Scythe, like, they usually don't have the gold to buy back. Their spells are still important, especially for Disruptor. He's like the only source of like kind of reliable control coming out for Clutch Gamers. And then it doesn't cost you the ult because you mentioned with the Aghanims, the cooldown's back already for the next fight. Really a lot of back and forth here. Again, like the lack of threat of destroying objectives that happened with Mineski's lineup made them not be able to threaten that mid and force the defense over this. That didn't create the window that maybe Mushi was hoping for.
Not Necro, Faceless, the Aegis just got reclaimed, by the way, so gotta be a little more careful. Oh my god, double damage for Lena. That's pounding in the damage right there. You see the Fiery Souls making him work. And gets the Melee-Rax middle, so well played in that sense. Bottom lane, also, they do take the Melee-Rax down there, so the split push is real from the Radiant side, and maybe that was the game plan all along. They actually executed this time around, so yeah, Disruptor being dead.
I can't recall the last time I saw a Necro Witch Doctor and a Night Stalker working on a barracks together. It's kind of a sad sight, actually. It takes a very long time.
It worked in the end, though. That's what really counts. Meanwhile, Chronosphere on 3 heroes right there, if anything, more distraction. That's what they're really attempting to do right here, is just distract and then push another lane, and kind of worked a little bit. The tier 3 top lane almost dies as a result of that, but now they are going to fall back. Disruptor is up, so you're right. That support kill, usually a support kill is like, okay, whatever, we still can't really push in. That apparently allowed them to really push in. Without Disruptor, they don't have that nearly as strong of a team fight offensively, at least, and the Glimpse, of course, a great tool, so they weren't able to. And all of a sudden, now Mineski has a massive lead, really, in this game. What just happened. You almost feel like Clutch Gamers has to make a bit of a desperate play, and they're going to maybe try to go for that here.
Yeah, at the very least, they need to take a fight outside of their base. They can't allow this kind of rat to happen. And they need to be in formation to kind of catch them by surprise to be able to win a fight as well. So they're scanning already, trying to locate Mineski, see if they can find a good fight. The Bristleback's going to be in the back, so this is a very nice deceptive move because often you would expect a team that's missing off the map to, say, be smoked behind the Bristleback. In this case, they're way in front of the Bristleback. And if you look at this map direction from Mushi, they're going to wrap. I'm not sure if this is a... I'm not sure if he intends to kind of run into them, as he's kind of just trying to point out their location right now and the path that they want to take. It looks like he wants to take a fight here. I'm going to look for some stragglers here, but that's not going to be the case. So yeah, they assumed that either the team was smoked behind the Bristleback, or everyone was off farming in the jungle independently and pretending to be smoked behind the Bristleback. And actually, this is nice. They're going to find some undefended Raxes here, as Clutch Gamers look desperately across the map to be able to find a fight. That range barracks is going to go down to Mushi.
Yeah, easy kill in the end for Mushi, so the idea of sieging working out very well right there. Faceless Void. Faceless actually is at a point where he's going to have that MKB, and again, suddenly I'm not nearly as concerned about perhaps the lack of damage of Mineski here that they have. We've seen obviously what Lena could do with those right clicks, the Fiery Souls being level 25 as well, having that talent to take care of. What's Faceless Void's level 25? Cast range or evasion? Interesting. Cast range, 600 cast range on Time Walk seems pretty absurd.
Yeah, it makes it basically like the old time walk before they like really changed the skill and
Okay.
nerfed it when you used to jump in with that. That's basically the range that it gives. The evasion, I think, is pretty unnecessary this game. They're just, or rather, it is still useful for the Shadow Fiend, but I don't think you're worried too much about the Bristleback's right click. I'm not sure if you'd get evasion just for that in that case. I think the time walk cast range for initiation could be good. He has a blink dagger already though, so maybe not necessary.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was just about to say the way he's planned, it seems like that it would be, but you do make a good point at the end of having the blink dagger already, so maybe not. We'll see. We'll see what he goes for. I don't think there's a wrong answer there. It's a safe bet. Not Clockwork Bristleback. He actually went the Abyssal Blade, so he does have that physical stun now to assist and go on whatever target at least, and also makes his right clicks a little more threatening. I mean, his Bristleback with that Warpath can be a little dangerous. Gets those quills added up, and speaking of that, he's also level 25, and chose to get the plus 25 quill stack damage on top of that. So just more of that AoE presence, adding up set damage. Shadow Fiend, he went the attack range. Yeah, you would never knock on the attack range, I think it's safe to say. Necro 7,300 gold saved up, by the way. Wow. Now he's an Octarine. He had the Scythe queued up, but now he has an Octarine queued instead. Oh, he's...
Yeah, that makes it even shorter cooldown as he is kind of getting hunted down here. There's the Abyssal Blade.
Oh, big Chronosphere, though. Night Stalker is here as one, and maybe assist, but the Guardian Angel goes off. Disruptor going to be fine for the time being. Actually, the Reaper Scythe gets immune because of the Repel. Now the BKB Shadow Fiend pops the Requiem, putting the debuff on everyone. He right-clicks down the Lina, and now he has to run, though, because the Death Ward is up, doing a bit of damage onto him. Bristleback pops the Lotus Sword on himself. That's OmniNet right there, actually taking the Death Ward damage. They bring back with a Glimpse on a Necro, and Necro with that Shroud out means he's immune to that physical, but not for long. Only lasts for so much of a duration, and Faceless Void's in trouble. Time Walk in time will stay alive for now, and actually the Cogs blocking the teammates for Clockwork right there. It's almost helping Mag once again get away. What happened, though? I mean, the Chronosphere locked down the prime targets, but again, OmniNet, I guess that's just what he does. If you do not catch him and take care of him in the beginning, he will help turn fights.
Yeah, it's a huge fight there. This has got that SCA back and forth flair. Like this game is, every time we think that something's about to happen from one team or the next, it ends up going exactly the other way. And there's been plenty of mistakes for both sides, so that's been pretty clear. Like watching just in terms of polish. You know, again, talking to someone from the SCA region, a coach there, he told me, hey, you expect to see a lot of games be thrown. Like in terms of there's an issue with finishing games quite a bit that multiple teams seem to have and struggle with in this region. You're kind of seeing that here. Like, it's really hard to tell who has the edge. It's almost like whoever makes the bigger mistake all of a sudden is the team that's going to be behind.
Yeah.
And that could happen at any time.
I'm almost in a little bit of shock, and again, I don't even know that was necessarily poor play that time around from Mineski. Clutch Gamer did a good job in making it work in the fight, and OmniNet using that Guardian Angel as usual seemed like it kind of just stalled things and allowed for the turn. Shadow Fiend, he clearly is doing a lot of damage with his own right clicks, and a Bloodthorn is what he has queued up to finish off and truly become 6 slotted at this point. I'm sure that BKB is down to 5 seconds. Sure enough, it is. But the other thing I want to stress about that last fight, too, the Requiem use from Shadow Fiend. You know, earlier on in the game, you like to get the Requiem for kills. Later on in the game, you'll see Shadow Fiends do it like he did right there, where you just want to get it off close enough to apply that debuff, because there is more than just simply the damage that it provides, of course. And I think the biggest thing is that damage reduction of 50%. So now he almost gets caught right here, but actually does make it away with a Silver Edge, and they're going to turn this. Goo comes out on a Night Stalker flying over the ledge. They want Lina, though. They're going to get Lina. Damn it, PKP. Glimmer Cape will barely keep her alive for the time being. She has a Shiva as well, and a yields. Can she get any of that off? She cannot. She had a chance there, but she chose not to. She ends up going down. She's dead for 75. OmniNet, meanwhile, dealing with the faces in the back lines, but he got the Guardian Angel off, and he survives, and so does his teammates as a result. Ninja Boogie, he'll go down as one. He drops a gem on top of that. Not going to be picked up just yet, though. But I think they realized it after the fact. All they lose was Disruptor, and now they're going to get Roshan. This should be a free Roshan kill.
Yeah, the tables have very noticeably turned here, whereas Mineski is still focusing a good chunk of their damage on the backline of Clutch Gamers instead of trying to engage the Shadow Fiend or Bristleback directly. You saw the Chronosphere once again, like another solo Chrono onto Disruptor, and then trying to burst him down and killing him there in the process, whereas the front line for Mineski is also their source of damage. So you're talking about the Lina and the Necrophos, and they're just being run at. They're just simply being hunted down right now. And if you don't have a way of fighting them, they're not afraid of fighting you, then you can't stand your ground. The ranks kind of break, so to speak, and then that's when Mushi dies. That's when the other heroes get brought down, and then you just have a total lack of damage going forward.
Yeah.
And Mushi choosing the itemization, again, like getting that BKB, getting the Bloodstone, perhaps overly in that magic direction instead of more, as you mentioned, potentially physical burst or another sort of damage output. Because now it feels like he gets a round of spells off and he's just dead. He's just being hunted down. He has no ability to fight back. He has no real burst potential beyond that first set of spells, and that's very problematic.
Yeah, it seems like this is a team that has potential to scale into the late game if you build that way, but they really didn't. They went for more of the we want to win by that mid-game point. They didn't necessarily do it, and now because of that, they are in a troublesome spot as this game almost reaches the hour mark. Now, it's still possible. I mean, they are up a racks. They have both the middle and the bottom set taken out. So, again, frankly, this could still go either way. With the way this game's going especially, anything can happen, and either one of these two teams could, as a result, be 3-2. With the victory right here. But Faceless Void, he's now even working on the refresher, so another... See, again, the refresher to me, God, Chronosphere is so good, and I guess it does last 5 seconds, but you know, having the Ags already on top of that, is refresher something you really need to fill your inventory slot up with to get a double ultimate off, or instead, get in the Mjolnir, you know? I'll just keep going back to that, but again, we'll see how clutch it proves to be. It's definitely something that could work out. Just a matter, will he get the value out of it, the double ulti?
Yeah, I think they've got to stop going for the Disruptor. They need to be able to fight the front line at this point. Like, stopping the Disruptor from getting his spells off just no longer seems, you know, sufficiently valuable for them, because the Bristleback has his own form of control now. He's got an Abyssal Blade. He's got the Goo, obviously, which he's always had, but the Abyssal Blade allows him to get on top of a hero and start hitting really hard, and then again, if you're focusing something as big as a Chronosphere onto just the Disruptor to blow him up, it's just not enough.
Disruptor himself, that Glimmer Cape, is a useful tool as well that we've been seeing both sides take advantage of to keep people alive. Axe is being worked on now by Clockwork, mentioned that earlier, how he would like to have that, but well, the way this game's continuing to go on, looks like he's going to have the chance to do so. Necro ends up getting 400 health talent over the -1 second death pulse cooldown. Instead, how do you feel about that? Personally, I probably would go the Q, but just having that raw health.
Yeah, he's not getting too many of those off, as you see.
Fair.
Clutch Gamers running straight into the base before the split push pressure and get to their own. With both waves pushed out, they're able to come into the base and threaten Mineski directly. So Mushi is top. He is trying to split push right now. It's kind of a race against time as...
yeah, they're trying to finish this. They're basically saying, Mushi, you better get back or else this game's going to end.
Just swapped in his TP, so Mushi a bit slow on the reaction here. He didn't manage to get the Raxes at all. He's got to come back now. By the time he gets back to base, they're going to pretty much have lost their second base tower. So Clutch Gamers going for broke here.
This could be the game right here. There's one Chronosphere in the background. He does not have the refresher anyways yet, so won't be a second one. Disruptor, the Reaper Scythe will kill him. He's dead for 100 seconds. Requiem goes off, though. Arc in the midst of it. The Shroud's going to be pop. Mag, time walks away. About 75% life or so. Arc stays healed up as well himself, but he's caught in the cogs, and there goes the Guardian Angel. Bristleback just sitting on top of the Necro. Nice cheese use, though. We'll keep him back up. Meanwhile, Shadow Fiend's dropping, and Shadow Fiend will end up going down. Looks like the Diffusal Blade was used to purge off that Guardian Angel, but now he's out of Diffusal charges, actually. Is Mag right here, and he has to actually stay alive at the time being. Going to be forced out away and survive right there. Shadow Fiend, though, putting in the auto attacks back up after the Aegis. He actually has a cheese himself as well, remember. We'll see if that comes into play right here. There's a lift on a Bristleback. The Reaper side trying to get the kill on Omni Knight. Not enough, though, so he's going to stay alive. Repel's put up, and he blinks away, actually. Here comes another Chronosphere, though. There's the refresher purchase. Wants to go Shadow Fiend. He'll get the kill on Shadow Fiend. No cheese able to be used because of the second Chronosphere. So that was a surprise for the Dire team, and that's where it definitely pays off. A double kill as he takes out Omni Knight, and now it's just Bristleback that's here. It's Clockwork's back in base defending. Nice job with the Lincolns, or more so the Lotus Orb to reflect right there, but it's not going to be enough. That's the Reaper side, the 130 seconds. He'll be needing to buy back here, I'm sure, as now they're going to push back. I keep going back to this game is anyone's game, man.
SEA Dota, wild and wacky. Mushi suddenly realized, hey, I'm not going to split push in time before they start working on my throne. Manages to get back just in time. That fight lasted long enough for a second Chronosphere to come out.
Yeah.
And,
no, well, that was a refresher.
Oh, refresher.
He bought it, and then he used the second one, yeah.
And in terms of talking about trading chronospheres for spells, right? We talked about the disruptor. If you are trading the chronosphere to kill the disruptor, then you're essentially trading the chronosphere for disruptor's spell set. So I'm not sure, again, if the chronosphere alone being traded for disruptor's life is enough, but hey, if you have 2 of them with refresher, I guess you can do that. I think that was kind of an issue for them before, but in this case, with everyone buying back, and
that's a mass buyback right there, going for the Night Stalker. Clockwork is picked off. He has the buyback as well, but he would be the final buyback right there, as everyone else already bought back. Bristleback sitting on top of Faceless. Not going to be able to run him down enough, though. Without blanking away, but the Radiant side doesn't want to give this up. They still want to hang around. They do have a Chronosphere back up for the Faceless. He won't have a second one. It's still on cooldown for another 88 seconds here. Is that refresher, but going to poke at, try to finish the Mega Creeps against Clutch Gamers, and here we go. Top lane Darkness has fallen, 62 minutes in. And not going to commit too much, though. Again, they don't want to just dive at them at this point. They do have buybacks themselves. You just don't want to give it to them either. They do have cheese on Shadow Fiend, remember. As we saw last time, the Chronosphere prevented him from doing so. There's the buyback, and the vulnerability popped by Clockwork. So now everyone has used their buyback on the Dire side, other than Disruptor. So he just resurrected, and apparently that's enough for Mineski to now fall back at least a little bit.
Yep, Disruptor does have buyback in case he needs it again. Talk about position 5. He's got a gem, Tranquil Boots, and a Glimmer Cape, and a Magic Stick. So this Disruptor has had a difficult game. He's been targeted quite a bit as well, but...
Speaking of being targeted, he just literally opened with a Laguna Blade right there, and Mushi's going to die because of that. I got to say, Mushi's really making some very curious plays, but you know what? Last time it kind of worked out in the bait sense, so maybe that's another game plan here. He's like, all right, I'm going to suicide myself, get them to push out, and then we'll clean them up here. We'll see if that happens, but that seemed a little like he just wants this game to be over syndrome. Can't finish it that way, though. Got to be a little patient about it. Night Stalker just flies over the cliff. He'll be fine. Thanks, Ice Frog. Bristleback. Bristleback's been trying to finish this Mjolnir for a while. He's actually had that queued up, but obviously having trouble finding the farm now as the game is in that very late stage. But that would definitely be a nice item to have. He is dealing plenty of damage here alongside the Shadow Fiend. Is there yet another item that maybe we're waiting for? Necro does have his Scythe actually finished. So he ended up going that over the Octarine Core. We saw him kind of deciding what he wanted. Do you like the Scythe over the Octarine Core in the end?
Yeah, I think the Scythe is still a pretty good pickup, both for defensive and offensive purposes. It might have just saved him, actually, there from the Disruptor. Yeah. Well, the Disruptor didn't have Glimpse Up, but the Scythe would be able to get away, to buy himself some time. I think it's just a better utility pickup. And it is also something that potentially could free them from having to use a Chronosphere or 2 on the control heroes. Like, if you're able to get that Scythe and use that Disable or blow someone up yourself instead of having to use Chrono to get to them, it could be useful for them.
Look at this graph, by the way. This is absurd. Up, down, up, down, up, down.
That is just emblematic of SCA Dota. I just keep hearing, a lot of very throwy back and forth games. Kind of just have trouble finishing games off and converting advantages into wins. This is kind of a region-wide thing as well, not just for these guys. So,
yeah, I'm not gonna. It's before this event. Funny enough, Southeast Asia is the region I've maybe casted the least of. So when I heard I was casting Southeast Asia, I was actually honestly excited because I do feel like it's actually probably potentially going to be the best region overall of these TI qualifiers, and it's definitely proven to kind of live up to that. It's been entertaining. But yeah, I guess again, I haven't really watched a lot, but I've noticed that from yesterday, and now a match like this, it's very chaotic in a lot of ways. And there are those moments where you're kind of slapping your forehead like, what are they thinking? And then there's other moments like, did they just really do that? Like, that was a godlike play. So it's proven to be entertaining and no different here. Again, both these teams are 2-2 coming into this, so it only makes sense that they're just battling out now post an hour, trying to see who's going to go 3-2 and who will drop to 2-3 at this time. The late BKB purchase from Faceless Void, meanwhile. At least it will be 10 seconds coming out for him here. That's 65 minutes in. Yet another defensive item, though. And now even has a butterfly queued up. Frankly, I would actually almost rather have seen the butterfly, but perhaps just me. They do have a Bloodthorn, of course, on Shadow Fiend, so there is that to consider.
Yeah, he's still got 2 item slots dedicated to control. He's got to be considering whether he has to make the full transition here to damage.
Moving as a team. Lena. Oh, Chronosphere number 1. They have the front to the Lena right there. Guardian Angel comes out the repels on for the kill. The Reaper Scythe didn't get it initially, but he doesn't have buyback either. That is absolutely huge. A second Chronosphere. Meanwhile, locking out Omni Knight. Omni Knight goes down with no buyback. It's all up to Shadow Fiend. If he goes down, especially this gets 100% over, he's going to pop the Requiem, but it probably will not matter. He's getting low. He will eventually be finished off. Hurricane Pike away. The Silver Edge, you ain't getting away, baby. He's staying dead. And good game, well played. Mineski's going to take this as Necroport's bottom and pushing it in. I mean, it's just clockwork. They're not calling it just yet, but there's no way. I mean, literally down for 50-plus seconds. The cores are down for 80-plus. They're just going to finish it right here, right now.
Well, in one big explosion of a fight, we saw the conclusion to this game, right?
Go figure. It started with the Bristleback kill, too. Like, that was the one here that's causing so much of an issue, it felt like, for Mineski in these fights, and as understandably so. But it was just key because, and that was all over an Invis rune right there. He went to go pick it up. He got caught in the Chronosphere with his front to the team, including the Lena. And we saw him actually die pretty quickly as a result of that.
Yeah, it all just, I guess that's when you run a big ult lineup, that's kind of the big play potential that you have, right? You get off one set of ults and that can just swing the game. You know, almost too many things to say about this. Just like a really odd and exciting back and forth game. But, you know, I'm a fan of this SCA Dota. It seems we're going to get to do more of that as well.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that you're able to cast this with me, Jack, over here. But Mineski moving on to 3-2, like we said, and Clutch Gamers falling to 2-3 as a result of this. Now, in the big scheme of things, again, you play 9 matches in total, so they've kind of got over the hump now. Both are still very much so in it. Again, finish top or 2nd through 5th even. Doesn't matter where you finish there. That gets you to phase number 2. The top 5 is what really matters. First place, of course, automatically goes to TI, and then 2nd through 5th goes to that second phase double elimination GSL format. So they remain really in that middle of the pack here. Still plenty of recovery for a chance for Clutch Gamers. But, again, it's got to feel a little sucky here. I think it's a good word, I guess, after that game. But we are going to go on a short break, guys. Stay tuned, though. Plenty more coverage coming at you for the Southeast Asian Regional Qualifiers. Again, I was Breaker CBK, joined by KBBQ. We got more coverage here for the BTS Hub. We'll be back.